really what's new there in terms of our organization and the landscape in general. So safe sport and the protection of youths and people of all ages engaged in sport at all levels really is the #1 priority for NGBs today. The government, as many of you may know, has recently passed a law called Protecting Young Victims from Sexual Abuse and Safe Sport Authorization Act of 2017, which now makes failure to report suspected child abuse to police a violation of federal criminal law. Additionally, federal law now requires that adults who have frequent contact with or are in positions of authority over athletes must receive consistent education on prevention and reporting. And finally, in simple terms, it really is the right thing to do. We want to make sure that everyone working in our sport can do so free from abuse, bullying, and hazing. These are steps that we want to take and need to take, obviously. And some of those programs are in place, which we'll discuss. So what do the changes mean for clubs and for our members? The first, clubs must criminally background screen. The second, clubs must offer consistent education on prevention and reporting. And next, clubs must develop and implement policies to limit one-on-one interactions. Clubs must implement and enforce policies and prepare for and respond to random audits for compliance by the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. So those are some of the items that you'll want to keep in mind and that we'll continue to send information on and talk about. How can U.S. Ski and Snowboard help clubs and members with safe sport? Well, some of the mechanisms needed to aid in the compliance are already in place. Background screening, you've all become very familiar with that program. This year there will be a change. Now background screening will be required every 2 seasons. So we're still screening the same population at this point, coaches, officials, and club volunteers, but we'll be doing so more frequently. Safe sport training, that will now be required every 2 seasons. And we are starting with the same group of members, officials, coaches, and club volunteers. And we'll evaluate whether that needs to broaden going forward in future seasons. And then Fast Start coaching course, now required for level 100 certification. So other policies and processes, as Tiger mentioned, are in the process of being implemented and announced prior to the competition season. We are working on those daily here at the COE, so you will hear more about those as we move along. Club minimum standards, just a reminder, last season was the first season of implementing club minimum standard, and we audited and communicated with clubs who needed to fulfill certain obligations. This season, it is mandatory, so it will be key, actually critical for clubs to register early. So you want to keep that in mind and communicate that with your populations as well, if you would. So just to remind you what those club minimum standards are, we will require that the clubs agree to support and align with US and Snowboard's mission, values, and code of conduct, that they agree to adhere to safe sport guidelines, that they certify club leadership and those whom we appoint to positions of authority over athletes are US Ski and Snowboard members. They'll also need to ensure that all those in positions of authority or having frequent contact with athletes complete US Ski and Snowboard's criminal background screening process and complete safe sport training every 2 years. They also will need to agree to US Ski and Snowboard's concussion policy. We'll be requiring that we have proof of legal licensed business entity in the state of primary operations. And then finally, that the club maintains valid general liability insurance, either through US Ski and Snowboard's club CLIP program or another entity with similar insurance. And again, all this information, some of it is available on the website. We'll be making more available as we go along. We'll be sending emails and making sure the information is really out there for everybody to learn. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Ellen Adams for an update for you on club development and where that program is headed.
Thanks, Cheryl. Good morning. It's been a busy year in the club development department. Most of our energy has been spent on certifications, recertifications, outreach, and education. So this year was the fourth year of the certification program, and based on our guidelines, clubs are up for recertification every board. The winter was spent visiting with 9 clubs, 8 of whom were gold certified 4 years ago and 1 who was silver, and meeting with them and understanding what they've done in the last 4 years to address some of the areas of improvement that were identified in the beginning in the initial round, as well as to just sort of check in with them and understand what's innovative, what's new, what's trending, what best practices are out there. So it was a really productive year, great points of connection with our clubs at those levels. Next year, we're going to have 13 coming through recertification, so we'll amp up for a while because the first 2 years of the program is when we were the busiest. And I think I've told people before, the clubs were targeted in the beginning were the higher level potential gold clubs. And so the process now is focusing more on bringing clubs in at the bronze level and having them use the tools and resources that we have through the program to start at the beginning and really evolve in a very productive and successful way going forward over the next 4 years. So through that, we've had 2 clubs last year that were able to advance from silver to gold. That was Mansfield and Sun Valley. And this year we have 2 clubs that started as bronze last year, Jackson and Proctor Academy, that are successfully achieving silver certification this year. So they are really using the process to build their practices in a way that's benefiting the club overall in all of their areas of performance. So you'll see from the inception of the program on the slide, we started in 14 with 10 clubs, and we're now this year going to have 45 certified clubs, which is a little over 10% of our club base. We'd love to see that bronze level keep growing and eventually get to 30, 40, and maybe even 50% of all of our clubs at that level. So I said that the other focus was on outreach and education. So in addition to our Club Excellence Conference, which you can see on this slide has grown since its first year in 2009 from about 40 participants to around 140 this year. And so in addition to that, we reached out and traveled. John and I took the John and Ellen show on the road to 4 different regions. We hit Killington, Buck Hill, Copper, and Squaw Valley, where we brought in regional staff to help support us, as well as club staff, and then some presenters, and sort of took a toned down version of the Club Excellence Conference in one day. And we really were able to reach a lot of clubs that don't make it to Club Excellence Conference, that have not been exposed to some of these tools and resources and philosophies and concepts. And we feel that in our first year, we made a huge impact talking to probably 200 plus people representing over 50 clubs. So that's a program that we're going to continue to expand on and look for partner clubs in each region to work with in the fall. And I think that we're going to be looking to you and to our staff to try to be most effective and efficient as far as when and where to hold those. So look for that to keep building. A recap, I've touched on some of these already. So we implemented the process for recertification. We've shifted our resources from gold and silver certifications to bringing more clubs into the process at the bronze level and advancing others. Also new was an Alpine Club working group that's under the Alpine Sport Committee governance structure. We had our first meeting at Congress last year. Our chair is Tammy from Snowboard, and John Nolting's been really supportive of us, so we're looking forward to that meeting at Congress this year. We've expanded our consulting projects. We had a successful executive director search for Team Summit. We facilitated strategic planning for the board and staff at Jackson Hole, and worked with Park City Ski and Snowboard Club integration in the Park City community. One of our major projects over the past year was completing a compensation survey and analysis for gold clubs. That's sort of delivering on our promise of understanding what clubs need from us, what we can do to support them, and deliver on some of those statistics that they're looking for. That included over 60 admin and coaching positions. And in addition, we're continuing to work with USCSA and NASTAR as facilitating relationships with our clubs, trying to understand how to leverage those for both of those programs. So looking ahead to this next year, we want to continue to expand our club consulting, really want to engage our regional staff and divisions in our club development and education process. And we want to renew our resources. With the new website, we did not migrate over a lot of the educational tools and resources we had for club development because they were dated. So we'll be looking to renew those and reproduce the Guide to Club Excellence as the resource for our clubs. That's it for me. If there are any questions, go ahead and type them in. Otherwise, I'll pass it on to John Casson. Nope, no questions.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Cheryl. A quick update on just the sport education department as a whole. And Ellen touched on club development. I'll touch on essentially coach education. And the two key points that came up this year was we were able to successfully launch our online educational platform, also called LMS or Learning Management System. We used a platform called Moodle, which is probably one of the most popular of these systems platforms that are out there in the country. And despite some technical bugs and hurdles at the initial launch, we've got it functioning and humming along really well right now. 450 participants rolled through that online system this year in the Alpine Level 100, and we're really pleased with the content that's on there and the interactivity of the platform and the engagement of our Level 100 candidates. That's in addition to still an on-snow clinic that goes on. So moving forward with the online platform, we'll expand into all the other sports for next year with their Level 100 program and the online components. There is a coaching, we're calling them the coaching core competencies that will be central to each Level 100, followed by sport-specific content in each Level 100. So we're really pleased with the capabilities of the platform and what we're able to do with it to enhance the level of knowledge and coaching knowledge, skills, and abilities that we're able to deliver to our new coaches. And then even further down the road, we'll start into our Level 200 programs and start working on revising those to fit the online platform. Second thing that'll be coming up shortly in the spring is we will be renewing or revising the continuing education program and making it simpler in some ways and potentially more complicated in others. But what we want to do is recognize that each level of certification has their own needs for continuing education. And we have a program that we'll be revealing in the spring or launching in the spring that will accommodate the needs of each different level of certification and make sure that they're staying on top of their professional development. And then finally, a big thing we were able to accomplish last year was bringing clinic leaders from almost all of our sports together this fall at Copper. We brought in about 60 of our clinic leaders in alpine, freestyle, free skiing, and snowboarding, discussing the new content, the new online platform, and all the new policies and procedures that we're going to employ to continue to enhance the coach education program. So that was a huge step for us and a huge commitment to this to the coach education program to bring in all those leaders in the industry, and to have that collaboration across sports was really pretty unique as well. And I think it was super well received, and we'll continue to strengthen that program as we move forward. As Luke mentioned, the coach developer position that we're looking to hire will basically take on a lot of that responsibilities of working with our clinic leaders around the country to make sure that we continue to deliver a quality product to all of our Level 100 candidates and Level 200 candidates. So we're really excited about that position and what it'll be able to strengthen the coach education programs. And that's really all I have at the moment. There more detailed information will be available as we kind of move forward with these programs and plans over the next several months.
Thank you, John. I'd like to turn it over to Chip Knight for an update in Alpine.
Thanks, Cheryl. As Luke mentioned, we've been devoting a considerable amount of time to a new long-term development model, and it's been a great process over the course of the last 18 months. We're looking forward to continuing to flesh out the details of that model. There's been a focus at the top end of refining our efforts at the national team level. And then we're working on building out this shared model at the development level with clubs around the country. So much of the conversation at Congress will will revolve around how regions and clubs interface with the new development team model and how athletes ultimately start to climb up the ladder toward the U.S. ski team. So really looking forward to that discussion. That'll take place obviously in regional committee meetings in the next couple weeks, and then again at Congress.
Thanks, Chip. Katie, are you on the phone? Katie Figgith? Okay, we'll move to Abby. Abby, are you still on?
Yep. Hi, Carol. Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time today. I'm Abby Nyberg, and I'm the Sport Development Manager for Snowboarding and Free Skiing. So I'll speak just a little bit starting with snowboarding on our Congress meetings. We're looking forward to some great meetings. This year, we'll be focusing a lot on the competition pipeline, really evaluating, the numbers of competitions, where we're at with the Rev Tour and different levels there. And then also we're going to have on the agenda this year, we're going to break out into more sport-specific discussions. So as people who are coming to Congress can maybe focus their times a little bit more where their interests lie. So we'll have a specific half-pipe discussion, slope style, sportcross and alpine snowboarding discussion during our sport committee meeting for snowboarding. And then on the free skiing side, again, really diving into that competition pipeline, making sure that all areas of the pipeline are working, discussing that athlete development pipeline, and focusing on where the Rev Tour does work and how to make sure it's in place and working for all of our different regions. So lots of good discussions there. Looking forward to seeing everyone. And feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any agenda items or anything else you'd like to add going into Congress. Thanks.
Abby, thank you. Robert, do we have Robert on the phone? Oh, so we're missing Robert. And Katie, my apologies. Really, in closing, just want to tell you that we're looking forward to Congress. There's a lot going on, as you can imagine. As always, and provide some Congress details. When we post this on the website and send you a link to it, we'll get the Congress registration and Chairman's Dinner registration links in there as well. We appreciate everybody participating. Again, look forward to seeing you. And please get in contact or reach out with us to us with questions. Thanks again. Have a great day.